We kind of veered off in this direction.
Sure.
I wanted to stop before and move into the ramifications of having a worldview built upon you can't succeed because the world is the problem. So one of the key things is like core elements of the culture war. One side says you can do better and, you know, find your path towards victory. The other side says there is no path because the world is bad and the world must change for you.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this story from the Daily Mail. Quote, "It's like living in Palestine. Minneapolis is renamed Murderapolis as children under police city pay the price in blood for violence that has skyrocketed since the death of George Floyd." So they go on to mention 211 people have suffered gunshot wounds, up from 81 last year. More than 200 cops have left or are leaving, signing off, or on disability. More than 300 people gathered at the site of Ania's fatal shooting for a peace walk, a call from the community to put down the guns and pick up the love. What's happening now is I've experienced with Occupy Wall Street. I've experienced it with these activists. When you keep telling people over and over again, there's literally nothing you can do to succeed, what happens? People give up. They don't
succeed, believe it or not.
Yeah, they don't succeed. But some people decide, okay, then I'll take. Then you get crime, you get violence. Then they demand the system change. And, you know, we see a lot of these stories about police brutality and police shootings. There's a story right now. So in Minneapolis the other night, they were rioting. Why? Because an armed fugitive who was arrested like 20 times and had multiple felonies, U.S. Marshals tried to stop him. They said he drew a gun. They shot and killed him. Of course, then they start rioting. And one guy is caught on camera. And they ask him what he's here for, and he says, "Believe it or not, I forgot the guy's name." He's like, "I'm not going to lie, I don't remember the guy's name." They clearly have no idea what they're talking about. So in a sense, it's kind of sad. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing other than it's the only thing they were told they could do to affect change. These are people who were never told when they were younger, you got to keep trying until you figure it out. If you're trying to find a path towards victory and it's not working, try a new path. These are people who are told there isn't one. You will never succeed. And so what do? They just go out and smash.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's a huge cause of crime, right? People believing that there's nothing they can do to improve their material circumstances within the system. They have to break the rules in order to get ahead. And so if your view of the world is that the only way you're ever going to make something of yourself or achieve any level of status is by hurting other people, guess what? You're going to hurt other people. You're going to take their stuff.
Or just destroy things and burn it down because if I can't have it, no one can have it.
Well, you're hurting the insurance companies. You're not.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad insurance was invented so we could just burn down anything for any reason and no one gets hurt. There's no victim. I just want to mention this about insurance. There are people who have literally gone into debt just cleaning up the debris from their place of work or the business they own being destroyed in a riot. And the insurance check didn't even cover that. So they went into debt without even getting to reopen their business. Insurance will pay for it.
But let's not forget, you ever go to a pizza restaurant and you see a picture of like the owner and he's with like Tony Danza and he's giving a thumbs up? That photo's never coming back. You can't get insurance for that photograph. But let's be a little less silly. The first dollar, everyone frames their first dollar they put up on the wall.
Yeah.
The first dollar that comes in, never getting that back. Let's say the guy had a painting from his mom on the wall, never getting that back. Let's say his mom died and the last thing she gave him after she died was this beautiful painting, and he says, I want to see this painting every day in my shop. And they threw a brick through his window and they burned it down. Insurance will never pay for that.
Exactly. Well, and also profit margins are very thin. So even if you're lucky enough to have your insurance company pay for it, your rates are going to increase, and it's possible your rates will increase so much that you're not going to be able to afford to operate in that area anymore. So fewer people are going to open shop in that area. The only people who will be able to afford to will be massive businesses. So you're just hurting the little guy in the end.
Yeah. This is what happens when, you know, people are told throughout their whole life there is nothing. And that's the danger of this white privilege ideology, these leftists, and they talk about white privilege. Like we talked about this last week or whatever when Chris Rufo was challenged by that guy Mark Lamont Hill. Because, you know, he was saying they're trying to say whiteness is all bad. And then Mark Lamont Hill is like, it was Mark Lamont Hill, I think his name. And he's like, tell me one good thing you like about being white. And Chris Rufo was like, I reject that framework. Like as if race is the component. And he's right. That dude who was interviewing him views the world through you, by nature of being white, have something. This is critical race theory. That whiteness is property. That's literally what they think. They think that you're walking around with like +2 charisma because you started as a white person.
Racial passives.
Yeah, exactly. Like as if you have like a little book, you open it up and it's like white. It means you get +1 all stats and +1 money. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. You have to be a good person. And it's the weirdest thing that they attribute it to white people, because imagine it this way. Let's say a baby is born in the middle of the woods and the mom dies, and then wolves come and take the baby, and the baby's raised by wolves. Is that baby going to have privilege? No, it's not. It's going to be living with wolves and eating refuse.
Look, that's the kind of argument that somebody who doesn't care about history or is intentionally not. All right, so I'm Greek, right? Mm-hmm. My great-grandparents were having to deal with the Ottoman Empire. Mm-hmm. It's not a modern thing that a lot of people talk about, but they were basically on the run, refugees. Some of my extended family back then might have even been like slaves, who knows. Mm-hmm. And then they were on the run for many years, and eventually they made their way to America, whatever. That had nothing to do with race. It was just a terrible thing that happened to a certain region of the world, that there were bad people doing things to people who were just trying to live their lives, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. But I use the example of this. Like, I'm first generation American. I was born here. I had opportunities that my parents didn't have, that my grandparents definitely didn't have. Like, my grandma was picking tobacco as a girl. Mm-hmm. You know, she'd tell me about, like, her hands were brown because she was picking up all this tobacco. Like, a girl, she didn't have a childhood. Mm-hmm. My grandpa, same thing, didn't finish middle school. I got to finish high school. It's just a straight, like, it drives me nuts to think, like, I didn't realize this until I was an adult, but just to have been born here is such a lucky thing for me compared to the rest of my family. Just one generation ago, my dad, I don't want to talk too much about him out of respect, but like, he was born in like terrible conditions, and just the fact that he made it to America at all is such a freak accident. Mm-hmm. And then for me to have been born here is even more of a freak accident. But then for me to go around, and I can't blame, all right, let's say my career didn't work out until recently, whatever. I can't blame anybody but myself for that. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't have the right opportunities, whatever. Maybe I had bad luck. But I was born in America, and that's already, not to disrespect anyone who wasn't, but like, just to be born here in this time. In this time, that's what I was going to say. Makes you so lucky. Because you realize if we were doing this show, if we were trying to do this show maybe like 7 years ago, Seamus would be surrounding me with a bunch of his with all his buddies, pouring milkshakes on my head and like laughing.
What? No, it would be the opposite, dude. The Irish would be getting made fun of and insulted.
We'd be being mocked.
No, I mean, it's true that like, the Irish are extremely lower class. And I know that my grandfather on my mom's side was basically pulled out of school in 4th grade. So that was the highest education he ever got. And he just had to work for the rest of his childhood.
In America?
That's insane. Yeah, in America.
Okay.
In America. So things, and also I won't get too into the details of my family history, but a lot of really horrible circumstances that just befell my pretty recent ancestors, even in this nation. This is an incredible time to be alive. And also when I look at where my ancestors were just 1 or 2 generations ago and where I am now, it's really incredible that people could work their way up any kind of hierarchy that quickly over time. Because in many other countries, you just have a kind of caste system. And people look at the United States and they say, well, there is a hierarchy, and so that must mean you have kind of a caste system, the rich are at the top, poor at the bottom. But what people don't recognize is that there is so much moving in and out of income brackets in the United States that is entirely unprecedented historically, and also in the world today. There's more economic mobility in the United States than any other country in the world. But you will never be told that. You're only told about income inequality. You're not told about the fact that people move through their income bracket extremely fluidly in the United States, and that just isn't the case to the same extent in other developed countries.
And even our low income brackets, like the fact that we have like air conditioning in our houses, that you could pay for an air conditioner or whatever, that you can go and buy groceries. Half the world can't buy groceries half the time. The fact that you can buy a crappy car, let's even say, like that just kind of runs, like puts you already ahead of so many people.
Yeah, we have fat homeless people.
I mean,
like we got,
that's what drives
a problem.
And that's the thing. Well, yes, but in homelessness also often, and I know a number of people who are homeless, and it's horrible, but oftentimes homelessness is a product of mental illness or alcoholism. It's not as if we don't have enough resources for everybody. And
you also have that video. I tweeted this video out from a Twitter account on the Venice Boardwalk. It's 3 guys just laughing about how they love being homeless. Mm-hmm. So I worked at a homeless shelter, and one of the biggest problems is people don't. We get this so often from the left when they were like, we could end the homelessness if we just stop spending money here. I'm like, bro, you can't. Mm-hmm. You can't. It's like children, and I mean this with respect. You know, children just lack knowledge. They're young. They haven't experienced things. They also lack wisdom, and it's not absolute. There are a lot of really smart and wise young people for sure, but they look at homeless people and they're like, we could just pay to end this. And I'm like, go down to Venice and ask the beach bums, and they're going to be like, I'm not going anywhere. They're like, I like living out here. Dude, I got to admit, like, Venice is rad. They got public showers that are beautiful, and tons of people just sleep on the beach. You can't convince them to stop doing it because it's their passion. They love it. And it's true for other places too. They're rail jumpers. What do they call them? These people, they ride the rails. They ride cargo trains throughout the United States, and they have, it's like that trope of the hobo with the stick, and he's got the handkerchief wrapped in the back, and it's full of stuff. Well, not like that specifically, but I knew a ton of people when I lived in Seattle. They were rail jumpers. They would wait for a freight train, and they would jump on the back and ride it for free across the U.S. Sometimes the train would stop, and the engineers would get out and start beating the crap out of them and chase them off. Typically, they would just ride for free across the U.S. They don't want to not be homeless. So the solutions to these problems are not particularly easy, and people have to realize a lot of it comes down to personal responsibility and personal choice.
Well, I also want to say this. I want to be really careful here, too, because there are a lot of homeless people, and I know homeless people who don't want to be homeless. They wish they had a house, and I see this in the city I live in. I also see this in the Chicago area. Tim, I'm sure you saw this. When you were working at a homeless shelter, was it in the Chicago area?
No, it was in LA.
Okay. So obviously, different parts of the world have different problems with homelessness, but in Chicago where it's freezing out, I mean, a lot of those people, they really wish they had a home and they don't. But that's not necessarily a product of the fact that there weren't enough resources for everyone. I mean, we have multiple empty homes for every homeless person. It's also that a lot of these people are really seriously mentally ill,
right,
or have a very serious addiction problem. And just putting them in a house is not a solution to that problem. They have to be monitored. People need to be taking care of them, or they need to be in a mental health facility somewhere. So there's more that we have to be doing for these people, but it's often made out to be this problem we could solve by just throwing enough money at the right people or just placing them in these empty houses that are already there, and it's totally naive.
Once again, like I say, children, people who have never owned a home, or been responsible for a home. So look, 2 days ago, the fire alarm went off, and so everybody has to get up. Fire department comes. We leave the house. So lightning struck the other day, and our internet broke. So something happened. We don't. This was after the outage, but something happened that may have fried some electrical circuit. We don't know. There was a storm before this, and so when the smoke alarm went off, we were worried there may have been something internally, some wiring that tripped it. We couldn't. I swept the house, couldn't find anything, and we're like, what are we supposed to do? So we call them, they come, they did a sweep. Turns out we're good. Hopefully we're good. Maybe it wasn't lightning that struck it. Maybe there was an electrical fire on one of these cables or something that we didn't realize, and that's what made the alarm go off. Maybe it wasn't lightning. I don't know. But I recognize that having to maintain this house and having to be responsible for people's safety. Now imagine you took a homeless person and just put him in this building and said, it's an empty house, there you go. The alarm goes off. Let's say this person's not mentally capable of taking care of the house, and then the house burns down. And they're in it. No one calls the 911. No one's there for them. You can't just put a person in a house. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.